Mount Air Christian Church. It's a blessing, right, to be together and to continue to worship this God and work on behalf of the mission that we have for ourselves. And we are to begin this year with gusto. And, right? That sounded good, right? I thought about that word, right? I thought about that word, and I hope that it makes more sense as we go through the sermon today. But I think the part of a gusto, or the good thing about the year, is that we can start again. I mean, every day we start, right? Right? We start the day. And we can always start rededicating ourselves to this spiritual well-being that we have with God. And like I mentioned before, God is a God of action. God does not sit still. And we read that at the beginning in the chapter, when John starts there, and he uses this word that God was there, Jesus was there at the beginning. It was a Genesis. A beginning, he says, that was with God, and that was God. And, of course, we know that the NIV renders that as the Word, right? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God and was God. And the word actually is a verb, which is action, and is active, and it continues to be. It doesn't cease. It doesn't stop. It doesn't take breaks like we do. No sabbaticals. And that's a good thing, because God is with us. And as a point of curiosity, I was reading in the New York Times article that I received in an email. This was by Melissa Kirch, and she was telling the story of how the month was named, the month of January. And she was saying that the Romans did not name 2 months out of the year. Actually, they only had 10 months out of the year, and there were 2 months that they just called it darkness. It was the months that was not productive, maybe the days were shorter, and they just didn't name them. It's off. They turned the switch off, right? And we're okay with it. But as soon as the weather got better, the year got restarted. And they got to go again. And that certainly has not happened in Colorado this year. So far, we have had an extended fall, I guess, we could call it, right? It hasn't turned the light off yet. We're going at it. But this is what she says. She says, January exists now and is named for Janus, the god of beginnings, endings, transitions, and doorways. And Janus is represented as a two-faced entity, looking both at the future and the past. Where are we going? Where have we been? Remember last week we were talking about this, right? We like to treat January as a clean slate, as a forward-facing time for resolutions and plan making, but the first weekend of January is also a good time for reconciling our accounts, for looking back over last year and maybe making an away or towards list of the things we want to leave behind and those that we want to cultivate. Again, I read that and I said, maybe she heard our sermon last week. Maybe she was here, or maybe she was online on Zoom, because that's exactly what we were talking about last week. to look ahead. But to look ahead, we need to look back, right? We do that because it is a way to gather information from what's behind us so that we can go then ahead. And that reminds me of the Sankofa bird. Shirley's here. She likes the Sankofa bird. I know that. It clicks with her and it clicks with me. And maybe you remember this Sankofa bird is a symbol of the people that the people of Ghana use that literally means to go back and get it. That's what that bird or that image signifies. To go back and get it. And it points to the importance of learning from the past so that we can inform the future. And we have tended to look at the past and try to either revise it or to change it, or maybe even to reinterpret the past. Maybe, or perhaps it's best to think of it as just an opportunity for us to reflect upon what has happened. It is information that we have been given that we will process, reflect upon it. And then I thought about this figure. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's like a bus, like a head with two faces, one looking that way, one looking the other way. And I was thinking about what's in between, right? Because that's true. Sometimes we look back and we see the things that have happened, and then we look ahead and we think of those things that may happen, but we don't live the day. And January stands there in that place in between what's happened and what's coming to be. Now, it's a mythical figure, this Janus, and he just stands there between that beginning and the end of things. She was describing it as the beginning and the end of conflict. When we think of conflict, what do we think of? Come on. Problems, right? War, bills. There's a lot of things that come into play when we think of conflicts. And most of the time we stand there, in the middle of it. As a matter of fact, I bet that sometimes when we look and try to define the beginning of something, we have a hard time to determine what that is. Sometimes we look at the end of something, and we may have a hard time to determine what the end is because it may get restarted in a little bit. That's interesting. We look behind, we look ahead, we're in between. When John writes this gospel, it seems like he's standing there in that same place as is defined by this lady, Mrs. Keller, Ms. Kirch. It seems like he's there in that threshold between what we call BCE, before the Common Era or before Christ, and AD, after Jesus, right? That place where they meet is where the Jesus event takes life. And that is the action of God toward human beings. It's in that place, that time. And he can reflect, this is John, on the meaning of the one that has come. The one that was in the beginning and that is so today. And that is with God. He's there. He's looking at that and saying, this one has been. Now, that's deep stuff. It's not just an event. The light of the world invaded us. He took our space and changed things forever. We look at that, right? Have you looked at this? It's very, very nice laid out. I think it's very symmetric, right? You have people on one side and on the other, some animals here and there. It's beautiful. There has palm trees and everything. But in the middle of it all, there's a little figure. And sometimes we think of that as decorations. Christmas. Decorations, let's put it away. Because Christmas is done, right? I'm a believer that it should be up all the time. Right? Oh, maybe not. Okay, that's all right. I'm crazy. That's okay. That's okay. But I want you to think about this because, again, this is deep. The light of the world invaded us. Now, Rome had 2 months, more or less, of darkness that had no names. But the light of Christ is not nameless. This is how John puts it, is God. Hello? Chris, thank you. All right. They're awake. They're awake. They're awake. This light is God. Janus was this representation of the in-between the start and the end. But Janus is finite. It's finite in scope and in time.
It's Sunday.
But
It's
Jesus stood in the Genesis. He was there before the Genesis and is the Genesis. Jesus stood there where there was nothing. And when things became. And through all the time, Jesus was, is, and will be. Hello? Perhaps we can call that a revelation. Or, as we like to celebrate in most of the traditions in the world, call it Epiphany, right? January 6th is that revelation to us. This epiphany that Jesus has come to the world. The one that was there before it has come to the world and visited and invaded this place and showed us God. Now think about that, right? You and I are in between. You're in that place. Okay, all right. I know that all this pronounces and all this stuff does not signify much to the modern mind. We have other things to worry about, right? Than to be thinking about eternity before and after. That's way too much for me, right? So you know what, I'll settle down with what I have. 24 hours is good enough, okay? And you know what? On 12 a.m. in January 1st, the year starts. And we call it what? 2026. So we name it, and everything is all right. I'm good. Now, I look forward to 12 more of these months. And then guess what? What's going to happen next? 2027, right? We know how to count. We know how to do this. You see, our time moves. And we experience life, which is full of events. We got all kinds of things happening. We have conflict, joy, events that really bring us a lot of happiness, and some that don't. Maybe I lose a job, maybe I start another one, right? That's another day. We're in between. But like I said before, I can bet you we really don't know exactly when they start and where they end. Take the events of yesterday. Anybody's been up in the news about Venezuela, right? Now, most of us would say, hey, Saturday night, right? Saturday night, there's this thing that happened. Helicopters went into this country and took Maduro and took him for a ride. Regardless of your opinion in the politics of all this, I'm not getting into that because we may have a lot of them. But the fact remains that you would have trouble defining when was the beginning of all that. And actually, we don't even know if it's ended. So in many ways, this Janus thing, this beginning and the end, is actually fluctuating. It's moving around. It's not certain, it is not defined by a time and a date. Because this may have started way back years ago. Not Saturday night. Or was it Friday night? I don't know. It was Saturday morning. So what could argue that the beginning of all that was when, even before Maduro was in power? And what could also argue that is the end is not quite near, even when Maduro is now in U.S. custody. See, that's the thing with time. It tends to inform us even after we consider the events done. Now think about this quote that John shares with us. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him. All right. Anybody has the calendar? Please show me where does it say that started. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him. We think of Jesus having been born 2,000 years ago or so, and we think that's the beginning. A baby that was born to a woman? But wait, the baby existed at the Genesis? It's not that. It was before us. In other words, I'm trying to communicate something here. Try to place that epiphany in a timeline. Have you had an epiphany lately? A revelation? I just had that one this morning. Shirley shared with us, right? That she was cancer-free. Revelation, right? That's a revelation to us. We rejoice. When did that start? Have you had an epiphany lately about something that's happened in your life? Have you had a revelation that has better informed you of your state of being, of your status in this world, of your status in the eyes of God? I said yes to Jesus when I was 12 years old. And I got baptized. You know, one would say that that was the beginning, right? But really? Really? Has Jesus been walking with me just starting when I was 12 years old? Or was Jesus there before then? Speaking, bringing light to my life. Was Jesus stopped being there when I decided I didn't want anything to do with him? Did Jesus quit? Did he say, no, man, you're not doing what's right. I cannot hang around with you. Do you think that that's what happened? And if that's what happened, why in the world would I be standing in front of you today in this place doing the thing that I would never even have thought I would be doing? Sharing scripture? What? I had said no. There has to be something more to life than this Jesus thing. See, this is what I would like us to consider. I would love for us to place ourselves in that space. I call it a space of wonder and mystery. It is a space that doesn't have any time. And it is a place that is not defined by a location or our GPSs. That's where God is. That's where God exists. And it is not limited by our timekeeping or our timeline. You know what it is to be in the presence of God? Well, you should, because you're there. Hello? Do you think that you're in the presence of God? Well, maybe you don't think about that. But God is present always. He's not present just on Sundays. We say it every time that we leave this place. This is not done. It continues. It goes on. It is beyond that. It is beyond the time. It is beyond January or Janice or whoever he is. And that will not change today, tomorrow, or next month. Whatever you're experiencing in your life, whatever is going on with you, please, please be reminded of this. It is not limited to our timeline. Because it's in God's time. If we say it's in God's hands, hello? It's in God's time. In other words, things have already changed. Okay, man, do you have the other button? Yes, well, yes. This is what John the Baptist was able to say as he met this Jesus. This is he of whom I said, he who comes after me is ahead of me because he was before me. I think that John the Baptist had a moment, right? He had a moment there where he was saying, wait a minute. This is the one. He was there. When God was going through all the calculations about how the world would be created, right? He went through all the algorithms. He had an AI behind him. Just kidding, people. You didn't get that, right? There's no AI back then? No? No artificial intelligence back then? No. This is he who comes after me, who is ahead of me because he was before me. Try to place that in a timeline. So, that's just to begin. Here's the most important part. This is what verse 12 says. But to all who received him, remember, it's talking in past tense because we need to place it somewhere, right? All who received him, who believed in his name, he gave power to become children of God. Who would be born not of blood or of the will of the flesh or of the will of man, but of God. You see, that's the power to become. We've been given that. That is to look ahead. That is to stand there and says, I have hope, like we were saying last week. Why? Because I don't stand there tomorrow because I am a great person. I stand there tomorrow because God is. He is the one that is with me. And I have to worry about the details. I'll walk through the storms. I'll go through the fires. I'll go through all these issues because God is with me. But to all who receive him and who believed in his name. You see, you and I have the power to, quote unquote, become children of God. You, yes, you, all of you, those who are online as well, you. And I point to there because that's where the screen is, where I can see the names. Don't think that they're there, okay? You have the power to become. That is it. And we step into it, because it's the timeless. It is not ruled by our framework. It's ruled by God's framework. You see, the gift has been given already. The epiphany has happened. It's taken place. It's taken place no matter what. And it's just a matter of receiving it. Because to those who have believed, received it and believed, those have the power to become. Imagine that. This is what I was thinking in my mind's eye. I was thinking about this little box where I could take all my past and stuff it in there. And I could take all my present, stuff it in there, pack it right down. And then I could take all the future and stuff it in there and pack it down. Of course, that box would not be literal anymore, right? Because there's a lot of stuff there. But I could do that, pack it, and wrap it, and said to God, I give this back to you. You give me life, I give my life. I give all of this to you. It is done. It is done. It is finished. Because he is the only one that can not only receive it and take it, but change it, transform it, and do all kinds of stuff with it. make you beyond yourself.